Hi there. So in this video I'm going to give you a bit of an introduction to the terminal that runs on your computer. I teach data science at a university, so this is primarily aimed at my students to help them get set up using some of the software that they need to use. Now for these few slides I'll go over some of the basic concepts I will explain, but others will more be letting you know about this thing exists, and you'll have to look at it in detail on your own a bit more. So in that way, treat it like a learning plan that later on, by the time that you are more experienced data scientist, you should be able to understand everything that I've put into this slide deck. You just have to practice. Okay, now what does a terminal look like? What is it? It looks a little bit different on the operating system that you run. So on Mac, the default terminal app looks like this black box basically. In Windows, the Windows terminal app looks very similar. Here I've written it as the new terminal, but it's about 5 years old now, so it's not that new anymore. And on Linux, every Linux looks different. But on Ubuntu, this is what the terminal looks like. Very similar. What can you do with it? The terminal lets you operate your computer without having to use the mouse and keyboard to click through different graphical interfaces non-stop. And then once you have a pure textual way of operating your computer, you can write these scripts that operate your computer, a sequence of operations, have them happen back to back, automated. If you're a data scientist, you want to have a basic understanding of the terminal so you can install and set up your environments, and install Python, for example, and the different packages it needs. And if you don't do that much coding by hand anymore, but you let AI agents do it for you, they typically operate your computer, so Claude Code and Codex. They take control of your computer by taking control of a terminal, and then it will tell you, I'm about to run this terminal command. Do you approve? Do you not approve? Then you still need to understand what the command is doing, more or less, so that you can kind of safely supervise how it's running your computer. And lastly, it's just cool to use the terminal. I mean, I was just shocked when this new terminal came out from Windows those years ago. They set up this sizzle reel, so I recommend you have a quick look at it. And it's easily the geekiest thing that I've seen, which is has this kind of dub techno music in the background. Okay, technically speaking, we'll say that the terminal itself is not very interesting program. It sort of just handles drawing the text on the screen that when you talk to it. Technically speaking, it opens a program called a shell. The shell is what actually operates your computer. It starts programs and collects the output of them. So it's a slight bit of terminology there. And each operating system, they have different shells installed by default, and each different shell kind of has its own syntax and its own distinct ways to talk to it. There are many commonalities though. So the key idea of a terminal is that it is sitting there, it's a program that sits there and waits for you to talk to it. So let's open up the terminal, the default terminal on my Mac here. So right now, this terminal is doing nothing. It's set up, it's gave me a message which is a prompt, and it's waiting for me to talk to it. So that's the main thing that the terminal is doing. We type in something here, we give it a command to run, and then press enter to run the command. If there's any output from that, then the terminal will show it on the screen, and then go back to step one and wait. Give me a new prompt to say I'm done with that job, and wait for you to give it the next job. So there's a few other key things. The terminal is always sort of viewing the computer that you're on from the perspective of one place in the file system. So for one folder, your terminal is kind of in that folder. It's called the current working directory. So that's a key idea. The prompt is that the name for that bit of text that the terminal gives you to let you know that it's waiting for you to do something. And it often has a bit of information in there too. Like if we go back to the previous pictures here, this one is, the prompt is sort of this $, and it tells you the name of the shell that is running in the background, bash 3.2. On here we can see the prompt is telling us that the shell is PowerShell, and saying the current working directory is C users THMAURE. And on the Linux one, we get the username of the currently logged in user, name of the computer, and also the full current working directory here before the $. So all of this is the prompt. You get a bit of context. Now, what do you do with the shell? To talk to it, it's a very basic syntax. Each command is running a program that exists on your computer, and you can give it some programs. You need to give it an argument as well to tell it how you want it to run the program. These program names and the arguments are separated by spaces, one or more of them. So if you had a program that didn't have any arguments, you just type in the name of the program, hit enter, and it will run. Or if there's one argument, you can pick up the name of the program, at least one space, the argument, enter, 2 and onwards. Now, because the space is kind of special here, that means that it's a little bit annoying if you want to give it an argument that has a space in it. In that case, you need to put the double quotation marks around it. So here's an example where this program is being given 2 arguments. One is this long sentence, and here's the second one. What programs can I run? Yeah, so you can run any program on your computer that's designed to be have this terminal interface. Some basic ones that are pretty much installed on every computer are listed here. PWD, short for print the current working directory. Echo will just say back into the output of the terminal all the arguments that you give it. CD, short for change directory, it helps you to move what is the current working directory up and down the file system. LS is list what's in the current directory. Man, short for the manual, this is how you get help with other commands. CP for copy, MV for moving files, also for renaming files. It's also a move if you think about it. And RM for remove. Now RM, be careful straight up, this is one where you can do damage. Normally if you right click and delete something on a computer, it'll go to like the recycling bin, and then you can undelete it if you need to. But from the terminal, you don't have that concept. You say I remove it, it's removed straight away. So these basic commands should work on every machine, definitely on Mac and Linux. Windows, you may need to install git bash to get these. I'm not really sure, I don't use the Windows terminal that much. Okay, let's try out some of these commands. So if I open my terminal up again, make it a bit bigger. We'll start with PWD. So right now, I've just got the prompt, the shell, the terminal, and you're waiting for me to type. You type PWD, hit enter, and we get the response quickly, because that's a very simple program. It just lists what folder I'm in right now. I'm in /users/ blah blah blah. Let's try this one, echo. So echo should just repeat back when I tell it, echo hello there. I get back hello there. Now, interesting, this is useful for debugging sometimes, but also I can demonstrate that the spaces here don't matter if you have one space or more. Once the program receives these arguments, it doesn't actually know how many spaces you put in, so that's the same. These two give the same output. Let's try moving around. So now we're in this home directory. I can cd to my desktop. And I'm actually getting asked if the terminal is even allowed to go in there. Yes. And I actually have nothing on my desktop right now. So if I do an ls to list, nothing will appear. There's nothing actually in the desktop. I can just make a quick file, put it there. Now I've got something there. ls will show me that now. It'll list out that file. So we've done cd, and well, here I won't do this one, but if I had I can do that. If I make a folder called my pictures, I need to put it in quotations here to make it one folder because there's a space in there, remember? And if you forget to do that, say if I do cd iPictures, it will crash because it will read it as my, try to go into the directory called my. And okay, let's go through a few more slides before I get into the next one. A few common tricks to help simplify how much time you spend typing into the terminal. If you're running a task that you've already typed in before, you can just press the up arrow and it will cycle through the previous commands up and down. So if you want to keep running the same thing over and over, up, enter. If you don't want to use the full file name for something, say instead of this being test.txt, this is a really long file name, and I want to do something with that. I'll explain that command in a moment, but here I make sure that I'm in the same folder here as I want to operate on. So I want to move that file into that folder. If I type move and I start typing the file name and press tab, then it will autofill that whole name, and then I can move that into the my pictures in the same way. My tab, hit enter. Now I've moved it into that folder. If I had a command that was running for a long time, I want to kill it. The shortcut's Control C, and then Control R lets you search backwards in your command history. So you start typing the name of the command, and it will search in reverse order, and I can rerun those commands very easily. To save time putting in the location of different folder names, there are these shortcuts to help you with that too. So dot means the shortcut that represents the current directory. Dot means the parent of the current directory. So that's why when I was in the my pictures before, under cd dot, I go up into the parent directory, which is the desktop. Tilde command. The tilde is a shortcut for your home directory. So if I print my directory, this is my home directory here. And a very useful one is using the star asterisk. It's called a wildcard. So if I had lots of different files, so let's say I'm in here, I had one text file and another these all have different names, but they're all ending in .txt. So if I want to delete all of them in one go, I go into that folder. Actually, on Mac, there's an even cuter way to do this. If I want to go to that folder there, I can start typing the command cd space, and even drag this little folder into the terminal, and it'll put the full folder there. I can jump into it very easily. Now I'm in this folder. I want to delete all the text files. Well, before I delete it, I'd do an ls star.text to list all of them. Okay, and it's star sort of means anything here, but it has to end in .txt. So if I want to delete all of them, rm star.txt, and then boom, they're all gone. And they wouldn't be in my recycling bin either. Another concept that you need to be able to be familiar with it on a computer when using the terminal is the difference between a path and a file name. So if I have a file on my desktop, well, I don't need to create it. If I had a file called test.py on my desktop, then test.py is the file name, but the path would be the full description of where it is on the whole file system, starting at the root of the computer, what's the first folder it's in, and if this was on my desktop, it would be under users, on a Mac at least, users, username, desktop, and then file name. On Windows, it would be starting with C, typically C users, it's pretty similar. Now, if you want to run, say this is a Python script, you want to run it, the simplest thing to do would be to make sure that your terminal is in the same folder as the script itself. So if it's the desktop, you want to move your terminal to have the current directory be the desktop. Then you can simply say, Python test.py, and it will run, because it can find it, right? It just looks in the current directory. But if your terminal's off somewhere else, that's not the end of the world. You just have to give the full path to it, so Python knows which file you're talking about. So you type Python and the full path to the file itself. And this part here, you can do more succinctly. If you're in the same directory, the dot means gets expanded, remember, to the current working directory. So dot / means the dot will turn into this part, and the / to test.py afterwards. So only a few more concepts to go through before we wrap up. One is related to what programs you can actually run. So we talked about a few here, right? The Echo, LS, CP, and so on. So these are built into the computer, but other programs that you want to run that aren't built in, how does the computer find them, right? The system it has for that is called a path. So this is the name of this is a category is an environment variable. So it's kind of like a variable in a programming language, but specific to your terminal. And the only special environment variable is this path one. And what it is, it's a list of all the places where programs are installed on your computer. So for me, I can do echo path, and it will say every single folder where the terminal will look for a program to run when I write it in. So if I type in something, program name here, hit enter, the terminal, this is not the name of a real program, so it crashed, actually didn't find it, but what it did was it went through each of these folders one by one. It started in the path, this folder, and it said, is there a program in there called program name? No. Is there one in this folder? No. And it'll keep going until it finds it, and then it will run that one. Otherwise it will not. It'll just crash in the way that we've done here, because it couldn't find it in the path. So Mac and Windows both have the same concept. On Mac, it's very easy to see what the path is, but editing it is a little bit fiddly. It depends on which shell that you're running, and there's this concept of a profile script where each time you open your terminal, in the background it will run a little script to set up your terminal, to set up your shell, I mean. So this profile, I won't go into how to do it, but I do this all the time, but I won't go into it now. On the other side, Windows does actually make this a little bit easier to edit, because you can go into the settings, and if you dig around enough, you search for environment variables, then you actually have a box that you can start editing, and you grab here, say this system variable path, and you can see it's a list of different folders just like we saw for the Mac, and you can edit and add things to it directly. Now, one vital concept for Mac and Linux computers is this concept of running a command in administrator mode with a higher permission set. To do that, it's very simple actually. If you try to run something, I'll do clear enter to clean this up. Go up a level. Now, if I wanted to run some command, let's say that this command actually requires you to be an administrator to run it, but it doesn't. Let's say it does though. Then the way you would run it in administrator mode is put in sudo before it. That's all. Now, the only thing here that might be a bit surprising the first time you try it is if you run this, you don't actually start getting the output straight away. The terminal will need to check that you really are an administrator, and you'll have to type in your password here. And this is a little bit strange, because if I start typing here, then you won't see the text arrive. So I have to type in, I'll do it now. I'll type in the wrong password first, so I'll just type in a bunch of gibberish. You can hear that I'm typing, but nothing shows up. If I hit enter, that was not the right password. So I have to type in my actual administrator password, which is my login password for this machine. And once it's correct, it will actually run the command in the administrator mode. Just very rarely you need to do that. You need to be very careful when you do that, because when you're running things in administrator mode, you're telling the computer that you really, really know what you're doing, and the computer has to obey you, right? So if you're getting commands from the internet and you don't know what they do, you shouldn't be running them at all in the terminal. But you really should be running them if the command starts with sudo, right? Because it could do something disastrous to your computer. Now, the joke on the internet is that if some beginner is in a forum asking a silly question, you tell them to run this command, sudo remove -rf/. So never run that. That is tells your computer delete everything on the whole computer without any inhibitions. So I mean, this was done so frequently that I actually don't know if this even runs anymore. I think you actually need to, if you really did want to wipe your computer, that you'd have to add some more flags to really force it. Because this joke was a bit too prevalent. But be careful of this sudo concept. Windows has a different thing. It'll pop up, say, do you allow administrator access? And I think you typically do that when you start the terminal. And then everything that you do in the terminal from that point is all in administrator mode. Now, terminals and shells, I mean, there are many different ones to choose from. And there's not that much between them, frankly. Basically, terminals are even easier though. So when I'm on a Mac, I don't use the default terminal there. I install one called iTerm and use that. It's just a lot more configurable, and not that I typically bother with that kind of thing. And then on Windows, the new Windows terminal, very good. I recommend that. The shell that runs inside it, there's lots of good options really. But what I do at least is on Mac, I set the default to Z shell, ZSH. And on Windows, I would make sure Git Bash is installed. I would recommend for you to just use Git Bash, so that on Windows you can still run those kind of commands that I showed you before. These are actually more Linux Mac commands than true Windows commands. But Git Bash will install them for you. And I mean, in recent years, Windows has this thing called Windows Subsystem for Linux, where it will install a whole bit of Linux underneath inside of your machine, and so you can get a kind of Linux experience if you really wanted to. But I don't recommend it for new people. I don't recommend it because it's complicated. It's a large installation, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but I believe even when you're not using WSL, there's some kind of resource drain because your computer is sort of always ready to launch it. And even if you had all these things working, it's very slow. So I don't recommend it. And I think, this is the last slide. I only showed you some basic commands, but I can tell you that I definitely live in the terminal every day. Every time I use a computer, I have the terminal open inside of Visual Studio Code or just in iTerm directly. Now, these are some commands that I use on a daily or weekly basis. So for me, I'm writing lecture slides all the time, and presentation slides, so I use Quarto for that. All my coding is done. I keep track of it with Git. Starting in virtual environments, source, UV, opening files, starting my coding agent, starting VS Code. This one's a fun one, actually. On Mac, if you don't want the Mac to actually go to sleep when you close the lid, you want to run some long-running program like a fitting in your own network that will take overnight. You don't want the computer to go to sleep or update or something like that. Type caffeinate. No matter what, the computer's not going to sleep now because it's caffeinated. So this is one of these cases where you can see it's doing something because the prompt hasn't come back to us. And the only way to kill it is with that Control-C shortcut I mentioned before. Super useful command, that one that's just built into every Mac. And some other ones, so I won't go through all of them, but I hope that's a useful starting point. I recommend you to just take some time when you're starting a new project and just say to yourself, I'm only going to use the terminal for the next few hours. Right? Try to do everything through the terminal, and then you'll see some things are very easy, even better with that. Some things are worse, obviously. I mean, it's not universally the best way to do things, but I recommend giving it a go so you can practice this and level up your data science skills.